11 days ago now, I quit caffeine. And in this video, I want to break down what's happened, how I felt since, and then give you some actionable steps and advice so that you can do the same if you are interested in doing so. I have to be honest though, I was never a massive caffeine junkie. And I wouldn't really class myself as one up until recently. I actually never even drank coffee before the age of 30, but we all know it's very addictive. And what starts as one coffee a day quickly escalated to 4, sometimes even 5 coffees and some kind of pre-workout energy drink like a Nocco or a Monster or something like that. So I effectively went from zero milligrams of caffeine a day pre-30 years old to 400 to 500 milligrams per day now at 36 years old. And caffeine's a weird one. It kind of chips away at you. You know, the more you have, the more of a tolerance you build up. So the more you need. So the more money you're spending on it, but also the bigger the side effects from having more of it. And the biggest cost that I found, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, was to my sleep quality. I got to a point in the last few months where I was living extremely healthily. You know, I'm an online personal trainer and nutritionist, and I have been for 5 years, but I've been training myself for nearly 16 years now, and I've always been, for most of the time, taking very good care of myself, training hard, eating well, really focused on, doing what I can, controlling the controllables. But the last few months in particular, I just was waking up and wasn't feeling refreshed. I'd been asleep for 7-8 hours, pretty normal, if anything, probably above average, but I wasn't feeling refreshed. And I'd kind of just had enough, and I decided something needed to change. So I went cold turkey. And, it's not all too shocking to tell you this, but the biggest benefit has 100% been on my sleep. But my sleep hasn't just improved a little bit, it's improved a lot. So what I want to do is give you a bit of a day-by-day breakdown into kind of how that's gone. And I think that's important, and you'll sort of learn to understand why as I go through this. So day one, I basically felt no change, either during the day or how I slept that night. I think there was probably just still some caffeine in my system, and my brain, which, likes homeostasis, staying the same, didn't really know what was going on. It wasn't aware that I'd made this conscious decision to stop feeding it with caffeine. Day 2 and 3 is where I really started to feel the sort of negative side effects of going cold turkey. Felt more tired in the day, but my sleep didn't improve. I also felt more irritable and crankier and just kind of lethargic. You know when you don't necessarily want to sleep, but you just can't really be bothered to do anything. That's how I felt. I also felt weaker in the gym. And the other thing I also really felt was hungry. Hungry all the time, because we know that caffeine can obviously suppress our appetites. Well, I say obviously, if it wasn't obvious before, now you know. It can have an appetite suppressant effect. So suddenly I was just hungry, ravenous all the time. Day 4 is where I really started to feel the positive benefit though. This is where my sleep started to really drastically improve every night. And it did that for about 3 nights straight. So if you imagine plotting it on a bit of a graph, right? You got day 1, let's go here, and no change. Day 2, day 3, maybe a little bit of a change in day 3, and then day 4, day 5, and then day 6 probably went up here a little bit. And then it kind of just plateaued because I'd gone from getting 6 out of 10 sleep to 9 out of 10 sleep. I never give myself a 10 because, let's be honest, perfection doesn't exist, right? But then it plateaus and you're just sleeping well every night. But it's really important to note a couple of things there. So the difference in the quality of sleep you get between day 3 and 4, it doubles again between day 4 and 5 and then doubles again. So it's not like a linear graph of how it improves. It's almost an exponential curve. And then you get to day 7 and you're like, wow, why did I ever drink coffee? And I think, let's be honest, we all started drinking caffeine, coffee for one of 2 reasons. 1, because of society and fitting in and being normal. Or 2, more likely, depending on how old you are, I suppose, is just because you felt tired. You felt like you needed that sort of kick and boost. But the problem is that by giving yourself the caffeine, you're compromising your sleep and you're putting yourself into a bit of a vicious downward spiral. Now, let's not be, too dramatic here. We're not talking about heroin or crack cocaine. It's caffeine, right? No one's going to die. But over time, it chips away at you. The fact that you're getting like worse and worse sleep quality and then need more and more caffeine because your sleep quality has gone down and because you've built up a tolerance to the level of caffeine that you've adjusted to, means that you're just keeping yourself in this vicious cycle. And you will find, I promise you, if you measured it between day 1, month 1 and day 30, month 6, look at your productivity, look at your energy, look at your drive, look at your output, look at your relationships, look at your money, look at any metric you want. And if you've been very consistently increasing your caffeine, you will feel like your sleep quality has decreased, not quantity. Your sleep quantity probably might not have changed that much overall. You're probably still averaging 6, 7, maybe even 8 if you're very lucky hours a night. But your sleep quality will have got to a point like mine did, where you were waking up and you were like, the clock tells me I've been asleep for 7 hours, but it feels like I've been asleep for about 6 seconds. And that's what kind of drove me to be like, something needs to change here. It's really hard to explain how I felt, because I was saying this to my friend the other day. It feels like you can feel yourself sleeping deeper when you are asleep. Like, another big benefit I found, and like this is just so underestimated, but if you're like me and you just suffer from like really vivid, quite horrible dreams and nightmares from time to time, my dreams even felt calmer and more pleasant and nicer. So my sleep experience just improved. If you imagine sleep as like a roller coaster ride at a theme park, it went from being like some rickety old roller coaster where you're like, well, this is going really fast, but I might die, to like, this is actually like an exhilarating, fun experience. Like, I feel safe, but I'm still having fun with it, kind of thing. That's probably like a weird sort of analogy I can use. But the most important thing, let's be real, is I broke the vicious cycle, guys. I got out of that, and then I started waking up feeling refreshed, but more importantly, feeling driven. I wasn't hitting snooze anymore. I was actually excited to get out of bed because I had my drive back. I had, people don't realize that your endocrine system effectively has a bit of a reset when you're asleep. All your hormones come back into balance. So if we look at things like our hunger hormone, we have leptin and ghrelin, right? So ghrelin is basically sort of controls how hungry we feel. The higher it is, the more hungry you're gonna feel. And then your leptin counteracts your ghrelin level. So it controls how full you feel. And if you've had 2, 3, 4, 7 bad night sleeps in a row, these hormones are just all over the place, right? Your ghrelin's gonna be too high, your leptin's gonna be too low. And the easy thing to do is to reach for that sugary, highly palatable, hedonic food where you're just grabbing stuff and then you regret it and then you feel guilty and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, I don't understand. And then people are getting more and more unhealthy, they're putting on more weight, and then this has a longer term effect on terms of like their ability to function as a healthy human being in a healthy body. And it sort of impacts negatively their endocrine system as well, their sex hormones, their testosterone, their estrogen, and all sorts of other stuff. It can elevate your cortisol level, which is your stress level. So it sounds so basic, drink a little bit less caffeine or even give it up, but the long tail effect it can have on your health, on your happiness, on your general fulfillment in life, I think can be genuinely staggering. And don't get me wrong, it also makes you realize, this is kind of weird, that you are actually addicted to it. Because every day I still wake up with that urge to have the coffee. Or when I'm about to go to the gym, there's like a trigger in my brain that's saying like, oh, you should grab that energy drink, or you should grab that pre-workout, or whatever it might be. And I have to fight that. I have to remain disciplined and remind myself why I'm doing this, and remind myself of the positive feedback loop of doing the habit and how it's made me feel just a few days in. And I have to admit, there are days where I'm genuinely like, oh, I really want it. But you just have to remind yourself why you started doing this. So if you're on the fence about it, I would give it a go. And the chances are, if you're watching a video like this, you probably are on the fence. You probably are thinking about it. And take this as a sign from the universe that you're going to give it a go. But what I would say is give it a go and reserve judgment for 7 days. Because depending on how much of a caffeine junkie you are, it's going to take some time to completely get out of your system, for your brain to reset a little bit, for lack of better scientific terminology, and for you to kind of rediscover your baseline. But hopefully within 7 days, you will have at least had one amazing night's sleep. And it only takes one for you to be like, wow, this good sleep is a more addictive drug than the caffeine. And the best part is, guys, if you're consistently getting good sleep, you're not gonna need the caffeine. So then you're literally just having it out of a habit. And like I say, I am lucky. I got a relatively quick and positive feedback loop on this stuff. And some people, it might take a little bit longer, but when you start getting that positive feedback loop, it becomes very easy to maintain because your brain's like, yeah, we like this. This is a good thing. This is helping us. It's the same with food. It's the same with training. You know, when you first start a diet, yeah, your motivation's high, but your discipline's low. You get 2 weeks in, not much has changed, which is very normal. And you're like, oh, this doesn't work. It must be me. I'm a special snowflake. And you give up, or you jump to a new diet, or something like that. Whereas if you push past that, if you remain disciplined, and you do 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then you look at yourself in the mirror, you jump on the scales, you see how your clothes fit, you start getting compliments from people, and you're like, wow, I've done this, and I feel better for it. And bam, that positive feedback loop is formed in your brain. Caffeine, thankfully, seems to be a quicker feedback loop when you detox from it. But like I say, guys, sleep is so important for your overall health. And I've done other videos on this, so I'm not going to go into the detailed nuance of it, but I've talked a little bit about how it can help reset your endocrine system. And I think we don't really know that much in the grand scheme of things about endocrinology, which is like the study of our hormone health. We obviously know the basics, right? But it's so complicated and it's so linked to our gut, to our brain, to all of our organs. And then there's so many little differences between individuals. And then there's systems that are broken within some people and some that function better in others. And it's such a fascinating sort of industry, I guess. It's a part of the medical world that, you know, I'm certainly not an expert in, but I'm fascinated by it. And I think over the next few years, we're going to learn a lot more about it. And people are going to become a lot more conscious about when you ask someone, why are you going to the gym? I think it's going to be less to get big and strong like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it's going to be much more to kind of just feel good, right? It's going to be people are going to understand that relationship better between training or eating healthily or sleep and their hormonal health. And I think that's where it will come. It will probably be women who lead the way on this stuff. And I think the reason that is because women are obviously a lot more conscious and educated on their hormonal health and their hormonal system from a younger age, because they have a menstrual cycle every month from the age of 12, 13, whereas men don't. So I think, as with most things, women will lead the way on this stuff, and us men dragging our knuckles like apes will follow. But guys, to me, what I want to finish by saying that sleep isn't just sleep. People maybe don't see it as the sexy thing, and they understand it's important, but they don't necessarily understand why it's important. And that's probably because they've been underslept for so long, they can't really experience the real benefits of it. I see sleep as a catalyst, because when you've had that good night's sleep, you're well rested, you want to get up, you want to go and do stuff. And the power of the sleep is that it leads to momentum, and it gets you into a virtuous cycle rather than a vicious one. A good night's sleep predicates good decisions. That's the most important thing. Whereas a bad night's sleep, you're going to be crankier, you're going to be reaching for worse food, and it pushes you further and further and further down the rabbit hole, and then it's harder to get out of. So listen, I think one of the quickest and easiest, because let's be honest, it is easy. The world isn't going to end. You aren't going to die. Detox from caffeine for a week and see how you feel. I can almost guarantee you that you're going to feel about 1 billion times better. So listen, I hope this video was useful. It's a little bit off topic to my normal subjects. As I said, I'm an online personal trainer and nutritionist, have been for the last 6 years. I primarily help men to feel their best, basically. So if you're interested in some online coaching, drop me a message on Instagram, follow me on here, give this video a thumbs up. And as always, guys, I'll see you in tomorrow's video.